The old wooden door creaked as Maya wiped her flour-covered hands on her apron. She wasn't expecting anyone today. Most folks in town had stopped coming by after the funeral 6 months ago. The visits had dried up along with the casseroles and sympathy cards. She pulled back the faded curtain and peered through the window. A tall man in worn jeans and a dusty cowboy hat stood on her porch. Behind him, partially hidden by his legs, was a little girl with blonde braids tied with bright red ribbons. The child clutched a stuffed horse against her chest. Maya's heart skipped. Strangers didn't just show up at the ranch. Not anymore. Not since David passed away and everything started falling apart. She opened the door slowly, keeping the screen, door latched. The man removed his hat, revealing sun-weathered skin and kind green eyes. He looked tired, like someone who'd been carrying heavy burdens for too long. "Ma'am, I'm sorry to bother you," he said, his voice deep and polite. "I'm Connor. Hayes, this here's my daughter Lucy." He placed a gentle hand on the little girl's shoulder. "I was told you needed a rancher." Maya blinked. The words hit her like a surprise splash of cold water. "I'm sorry, what?" "Old Pete down at the feed store, he mentioned you might be looking for help with your cattle operation." Connor shifted his weight, clearly uncomfortable. "Said you'd been handling things on your own since your husband passed. I apologize if I'm speaking out of turn." Maya's cheeks flushed. She could imagine exactly what Pete had said. Probably told half the county that the city girl who married David Sterling couldn't handle a real ranch, that she was in over her head and needed a man to set things right. "I'm managing just fine," she said, though they both knew it wasn't true. The fence posts were leaning, paint was peeling off the barn, and she hadn't been able to get the cattle moved to the south pasture in weeks. Lucy peeked around her father's legs and gave Maya a small wave. "Hi," she whispered. "Your house is pretty. It looks like the one in my storybook." Despite herself, Maya smiled. The farmhouse did look like something from a fairy tale, with its wraparound porch and flower boxes under every window. David had painted it yellow because he said it reminded him of sunshine, back when there was still sunshine in their lives. "Thank you, sweetie," Maya said, then looked back at Connor. "I appreciate you coming by, Mr. Hayes, but I'm not looking to hire anyone right now." Connor nodded slowly. "I understand. Times are hard, and trust doesn't come easy with strangers." He paused, glancing down at Lucy. "Would it be all right if we sat on your porch for a few minutes? We've been driving since dawn and Lucy could use a break." Maya hesitated. Something about the way he said it made her think they'd been driving for more than just one morning. She noticed their truck was loaded with boxes and suitcases. These weren't people just passing through, they were looking for somewhere to land. "I suppose that would be fine," she said, unlatching the screen door. Lucy immediately plopped down on the porch swing, making it creak softly. She set her stuffed horse beside her and looked around with wide, curious eyes. "Daddy, look at all the flowers. Can we have flowers like this someday?" "Maybe, baby girl," Connor said, but his voice carried doubt. Maya found herself studying them both. Connor had the build of someone who worked with his hands, broad shoulders and strong arms, that spoke of years of physical labor. But there was something gentle about him too, the way he spoke to his daughter, the careful way he'd asked permission to rest on her porch. Lucy was maybe 6 years old, with bright blue eyes and a gap-toothed smile. Her clothes were clean but worn, and her shoes had seen better days. Still, there was something joyful about her, a lightness that reminded Maya of how she used to feel before life got so complicated. "How old are you, Lucy?" Maya asked, settling into one of the wicker chairs. "I'm 6 3/4, Lucy announced proudly. "My birthday is in 2 months, and then I'll be 7. Daddy says 7 is a very important age." "It certainly is," Maya agreed. "That's when you lose your first tooth, right?" Lucy grinned and pointed to the gap in her front teeth. "Already lost 2. The tooth fairy gave me a whole $1 for each one." Connor smiled, and for a moment his tired expression softened. "Lucy's my little chatterbox. Sometimes I think she talks enough for both of us." "Where are you folks headed?" Maya asked. though she suspected she already knew the answer. "Wherever the road takes us," Connor said simply. "I've been working ranches since I was 16. Good with cattle, horses, fixing things that are broken. Lucy and we don't need much, just a place to settle down for a while." There was something in his voice that tugged at Maya's heart. She recognized that tone because she'd heard it in her own voice lately. The sound of someone trying to stay strong when everything felt like it was falling apart. "What kind of ranch work have you done?" she found herself asking. Connor's eyes lit up slightly. "Started on a dairy farm in Montana, learned how to handle birthing season, treat sick animals, manage grazing rotations. Spent 5 years on a cattle ranch in Wyoming, helped run a 1,000-head operation. Most recently worked a spread in Colorado, but the owner decided to sell to developers. And before that? Before that was different." His voice grew quiet. "Had my own small place in Nebraska, 20 acres and a dream." He looked down at Lucy, who was now humming softly to her stuffed horse. "Lost it when my wife got sick. Medical bills ate up everything we had." Maya's throat tightened. She knew about medical bills and lost dreams. David's heart attack had been sudden, but the months of tests and treatments leading up to it had drained their savings. The only reason she still had the ranch was because David had paid off the mortgage early, back when his construction business was thriving. "I'm sorry for your loss," she said quietly. "Thank you, it's been 2 years now." Lucy doesn't remember much about being sick, which is a blessing, I suppose. But she remembers her mama. Talks about her every day. Lucy looked up from her horse. "Mama used to sing to me every night. She had the prettiest voice, like the birds in the morning. Daddy sings too, but he sounds like a frog." She giggled. Connor laughed, a real laugh that transformed his whole face. "Hey now, that's not very nice. I prefer to think of it as a unique sound." "Like when the cows moo?" Lucy asked innocently. "Exactly like when the cows moo." Maya found herself smiling despite the heaviness in her chest. When was the last time she'd heard laughter on this porch? David used to sit right where Connor was sitting now, reading the newspaper and making jokes about the local gossip. He'd been gone 6 months, but sometimes it felt like yesterday. Other times it felt like a lifetime. "Tell you what," she said suddenly, surprising herself. "I was just about to make some lunch, nothing fancy, just grilled cheese and tomato soup. Would you like to join me?" Lucy's face lit up. "Can we, Daddy? Please? I love grilled cheese." Connor hesitated. "That's very kind, ma'am, but we don't want to impose." "You're not imposing, and please call me Maya. Mrs. Sterling makes me feel like I'm 90 years old." "Maya," Connor repeated like he was testing how it sounded. "That's a pretty name." "Thank you. My grandmother picked it. She said it meant mother in some ancient language. Turned out to be ironic since David and I never had children." The words slipped out before she could stop them, and she immediately regretted the overshare. But Connor just nodded with understanding. "Sometimes life doesn't go the way we plan," he said simply. They moved inside, and Maya was suddenly aware of how the house must look to strangers. She'd let things slide since David died. Mail piled up on the kitchen counter, dishes sat in the sink longer than they should, and dust gathered on surfaces she used to keep spotless. But Lucy didn't seem to notice any of that. She was too busy looking around with wide eyes, taking in the family photos on the walls, the collection of ceramic roosters on the windowsill, the old wooden table where David used to work on ranch paperwork. "This is a really nice house," Lucy announced. "It feels happy." Maya paused in the middle of pulling bread from the pantry. "Happy?" "Yeah, like good things happened here. Some houses feel sad, but this one feels like there were lots of smiles. And hugs." Connor looked embarrassed. Lucy has an active imagination. But Maya understood exactly what the little girl meant. This house had been full of love once. She and David had been happy here, at least in the beginning. Before they realized children weren't going to happen, before the ranch started struggling, before David worked himself into an early grave trying to keep everything together. "You're right, Lucy. There were lots of smiles and hugs here." Maya's voice was soft. Your daddy raised a very smart little girl. As she cooked, Connor and Lucy sat at the kitchen table. Lucy colored in a worn coloring book while Connor watched Maya move around the kitchen. She could feel his eyes on her, but it didn't make her uncomfortable. Instead, it reminded her of being seen, of being more than just the widow who couldn't handle her dead husband's ranch. You do this often? Connor asked. Cook for strangers who show up at your door? You're actually the first strangers who've shown up at my door since David died, Maya admitted. Most people in town think I should sell the ranch and move back to the city where I came from. Is that what you want to do? Maya woke to the sound of voices outside her bedroom window. For a moment, she forgot about her unexpected guests and wondered who could be talking in her yard so early. Then she remembered Connor and Lucy were staying in the old cabin. She pulled back the curtain and smiled despite herself. Connor was crouched down next to Lucy in the chicken coop, showing her how to collect eggs. The little girl held a small basket and moved carefully among the hens, her face serious with concentration. Remember, nice and gentle, Connor was saying. These ladies don't like to be rushed. Like this, Daddy? Lucy whispered loudly, as if the chickens might understand and be offended. Perfect, sweetheart. You're a natural. Maya watched them for a few more minutes before getting dressed. She'd been collecting those eggs alone for 6 months, and it had become just another chore on her endless list. But seeing Lucy's excitement over each brown egg made the task look magical again. By the time Maya made it to the kitchen, Connor and Lucy were already on the porch with a basket full of eggs. Good morning, Connor called through the screen door. Hope we didn't wake you. Lucy was up with the sun, eager to help with chores. I got 12 eggs, Lucy announced proudly. Daddy says that's really good for my first time. That's excellent, Maya said, opening the door. I usually only find 8 or 9. You must have the magic touch. Lucy beamed. Can I help make breakfast? I'm really good at cracking eggs. Well, sometimes the shells get in there, but Daddy says that's extra calcium. Connor laughed. What Lucy means is she's enthusiastic about cooking. The results are still a work in progress. Maya found herself laughing too. I'd love the help. Come on in. As they cooked breakfast together, Maya watched Connor move around her kitchen like he'd been there for years. He found the coffee mugs, without asking, located the salt and pepper by instinct, and somehow managed to keep Lucy from adding too much cheese to the scrambled eggs. You're good at this, Maya observed. 2 years of practice, Connor said. When it's just you and a little girl, you learn to work as a team pretty quickly. Daddy makes the best pancakes in the whole world, Lucy announced from her perch on a kitchen chair. He puts funny faces on them with chocolate chips. Is that so? Maya looked at Connor with raised eyebrows. It's the only way I can get her to eat breakfast without complaining, he admitted. Though I'm not sure my pancakes qualify as the best in the world. They're better than the ones at the diner in our old town, Lucy insisted. Those ones were flat and sad. Daddy's are fluffy and happy. After breakfast, Maya found herself walking Connor around the property, pointing out problems she'd been putting off for weeks. The fence line that needed repair, the barn door that stuck, the water trough that had a slow leak. That's a lot for one person to handle, Connor said, examining the broken fence posts. David always said ranching was too big a job for one person, Maya replied. He just didn't expect to leave me alone with it so soon. Connor was quiet for a moment, running his hand along the weathered wood. How long were you married? 8 years. We met in college, got married right after graduation. I was working as a teacher in Denver when David inherited this place from his uncle. I thought it would be an adventure, moving out here, starting fresh. What changed your mind? Maya paused, surprised by the question. Most people assumed she'd always hated ranch life. I never changed my mind about loving this place. I changed my mind about thinking I could handle it alone. Connor nodded. There's a difference. David worked so hard to make this ranch successful. Some years were good, some were tough, but he never gave up. When he died, I felt like giving up would be betraying everything he worked for. But keeping going feels impossible some days. What if you didn't have to do either one? Connor asked quietly. What if there was a third option? Before Maya could ask what he meant, Lucy came running over from where she'd been chasing butterflies in the wildflower meadow. Maya! Maya! There's a baby cow stuck in the fence, she called breathlessly. Sure enough, a young calf had somehow wedged itself between two fence posts and was bleating pitifully. Its mother stood nearby looking agitated. Oh no, Maya sighed. This happens more often than I'd like to admit. They're curious little things and not very bright about getting themselves unstuck. Connor was already moving toward the calf, his voice calm and soothing. Easy there, baby. We're going to help you out. Maya watched as he assessed the situation quickly, then began working to free the calf without spooking either the baby or its protective mother. His movements were confident and practiced, and within minutes the little cow was free and running back to the herd. How did you do that so fast? Maya asked. It usually takes me 20 minutes and a lot of pushing and pulling. You were trying to force it, Connor explained. Sometimes the gentler approach works better. Cattle respond to calm energy. Lucy clapped her hands. Daddy's really good with animals. He saved a horse once that everyone else said couldn't be saved. Lucy. Connor's voice held a gentle warning. But you did. Tell Maya about Thunder. Connor looked embarrassed. It's not that interesting of a story. Please. Maya found herself curious. Connor sighed but smiled at Lucy's eager face. There was this old horse at the ranch in Colorado. Owner was ready to put him down because he'd gotten mean after an injury. Wouldn't let anyone near him, wouldn't eat properly. I spent 3 months just sitting in his stall, not trying to touch him or train him, just being there. And then what happened? Maya asked. One day he came over and put his head on my shoulder. After that we were best friends. Turned out he wasn't mean, just scared and in pain. Once he learned to trust again, he was gentle as a lamb. Maya looked at Connor with new respect. She'd known plenty of ranch hands who thought the solution to every animal problem was force and dominance. But Connor seemed to understand something deeper about working with living creatures. What happened to Thunder when the ranch sold? She asked. Connor's expression grew sad. Owner found him a good retirement home. Thunder was getting too old to work anyway, but Lucy still asks about him. I miss Thunder, Lucy said quietly. He let me brush his mane. It was so pretty and long. Maybe someday we'll find another horse friend for you to brush, Connor said, ruffling her hair. As they walked back toward the house, Maya found herself thinking about Connor's approach with the calf. She'd been trying to force so many things lately, forcing herself to handle the ranch work alone, forcing herself to move forward without help, forcing herself not to need anyone. Connor, she said suddenly, that third option you mentioned. What did you mean? He stopped walking and looked at her seriously. I meant maybe you don't have to choose between giving up David's dream and struggling alone. Maybe there's a way to honor what he built while getting the help you need. You mean hiring someone? I mean partnering with someone who cares about doing things right, someone who understands that this isn't just a job, it's a way of life. Maya felt her heart start to race. Are you offering to stay? I'm offering to prove myself. Give me 1 month. Let me show you what I can do, how I work, who I am. If at the end of 30 days you don't think we're a good fit, Lucy and I will move on with no hard feelings. And if I do think we're a good fit? Connor's green eyes met hers steadily. Then we figure out a way to make it work long term. Fair wages for fair work, a safe place for Lucy to grow up, and a partner to help you build something good here. Maya's practical mind started listing all the reasons why this was a bad idea. She barely knew these people. Connor could be unreliable, dishonest, or worse. Lucy was sweet now. But what if living here permanently changed that? What if they decided to leave just when Maya started depending on them? But her heart was already saying yes. Yesterday, the ranch had felt like a burden she carried alone. Today, with Connor fixing fences and Lucy gathering eggs, it felt like a place where life could happen again. 1 month, she said finally. But I have conditions. Name them. You work hard, but you don't work yourself to death. David did that, and I won't watch it happen again. You treat the animals with respect, which I can see you already do, And you're honest with me, even if it's something I don't want to hear. Deal, Connor said immediately. What about payment? Room and board for you and Lucy, plus wages we'll negotiate based on what the ranch can afford. I can't pay much right now, but if we can turn things around. Maya. Connor's voice was gentle. I'm not looking to get rich. I'm looking to build a life for my daughter. Somewhere safe and stable where she can go to school and make friends and have a normal childhood. The school bus stops at the end of the ranch road, Maya said, surprising herself with how quickly she'd thought of that detail. Lucy would go to Valley Elementary with about 40 other kids. It's a good school. Lucy looked up at both of them with wide eyes. Does this mean we get to stay, really stay? Maya looked at Connor, then at the little girl whose face was full of hope. It means we're going to try for 1 month and see how it goes. Lucy threw her arms around Maya's waist in an impulsive hug. Thank you. I promise I'll be really good. I'll help with everything and I won't complain about chores and I'll keep my room clean. 2 weeks into their arrangement, Maya was beginning to think she'd made the best decision of her life. Connor had thrown himself into the ranch work with an enthusiasm that reminded her of David in the early days. Every morning, he was up before dawn checking on the cattle, and every evening he had a list of small improvements he'd made during the day. But it was the little things that surprised Maya the most. The way Connor always asked her opinion before making changes, even small ones. How he'd replaced the broken handle on the feed room door without being asked. The careful way he treated the older cattle that needed extra attention. And Lucy, sweet chattering Lucy, had brought life back to the ranch in ways Maya never expected. The little girl followed Maya everywhere, asking endless questions about ranch life, helping with simple tasks, and filling the quiet spaces with laughter and stories. Maya, look what I found. Lucy came running from the barn one morning holding something cupped in her small hands. What is it, sweetie? A baby mouse. It was all alone in the hay bale. I think it lost its mama. Lucy's blue eyes were full of concern. Can we help it? Maya peered into Lucy's hands at the tiny pink creature. Oh, honey, I don't think this little guy is going to make it. Sometimes baby animals. But we have to try, Lucy interrupted. Right? That's what you do when something needs help. You try. Over Lucy's head, Maya caught Connor's eye. He was watching his daughter with a mixture of pride and sadness that she was beginning to recognize. It was the look of a parent who wanted to protect their child from heartbreak, but knew they couldn't shield them from everything. We can try, Maya said gently. But Lucy, you need to understand that sometimes trying isn't enough to save something. That doesn't mean it wasn't worth doing. They spent the next hour setting up a small box with soft towels and trying to feed the baby mouse with a tiny dropper. Lucy was completely absorbed in the task, her little face serious with concentration. There, she whispered as the mouse managed to take a few drops of milk. See? He just needed someone to care about him. Connor sat down beside his daughter. You have a kind heart, Lucy. Your mama would be proud of how gentle you are with small creatures. I remember Mama rescuing a bird once, Lucy said softly. She kept it in a shoebox until its wing got better and then we let it fly away. She said sometimes the best way to love something is to help it be free. Maya felt her throat tighten. This little girl had experienced more loss than most adults, yet she still believed in rescue and hope. There was something both heartbreaking and inspiring about that kind of faith. Unfortunately, despite their efforts, the baby mouse didn't survive the night. Maya found it early the next morning and quietly disposed of it before Lucy woke up. When the little girl came looking for her, patient, Maya gently explained what had happened. Lucy's eyes filled with tears, but she nodded bravely. We tried our best, didn't we? We did, sweetheart. Sometimes that's all we can do. Can we bury him in the flower garden? Mama always said that when living things die, they help new things grow. So they held a small funeral for the baby mouse, with Lucy picking wildflowers for the tiny grave and Connor saying a few words about how every life matters, no matter how small. Maya watched this tender family moment and felt something shift in her chest, a warmth she'd almost forgotten existed. That afternoon, Connor was working on replacing some rotten fence posts when Maya brought him a glass of iced tea. The late spring sun was warm on her shoulders, and she found herself lingering to watch him work. "You don't have to do all this yourself," she said. "I could hire someone to help with the bigger repairs." Connor paused in his hammering and wiped sweat from his forehead. "I don't mind the work. Besides, money's better spent on feed and vet bills than paying someone to do things I can handle myself." "David used to say the same thing," Maya said quietly. "He worked from dawn to dusk trying to keep this place running. I used to worry he'd work himself to death." Connor's hammer stopped mid-swing. "And did he?" Maya was quiet for a long moment. She'd never said the words out loud before, but Connor's gentle question opened something inside her. The doctor said it was a heart attack brought on by stress and overwork. David was only 34, Connor. 34 years old, and he died because he couldn't stop trying to save this ranch. Connor set down his hammer and turned to face her fully. "Maya, I need you to know something. I'm not David. I believe in hard work, but I also believe in balance. Lucy needs a father who's alive and present, not a martyr to a piece of land." "I know you're not David," Maya said. "That's not what I meant. I worry about caring for people who don't know when to stop." "Then don't let me," Connor said simply. "If you see me pushing too hard, call me on it. That's part of being partners, right? Looking out for each other." Partners. The word hung in the air between them, loaded with possibilities Maya wasn't quite ready to examine. But before she could respond, they were interrupted by the sound of a truck coming up the ranch road. Maya shaded her eyes against the sun and recognized the vehicle immediately. Her stomach dropped. "That's David's brother, Ryan." Connor picked up on her tension immediately. "Problem? Ryan never liked me. He thought David married beneath himself when he chose a city girl over one of the local ranchers' daughters. He's made no secret of thinking I should sell this place and move back where I came from." The truck pulled up near the house, and Ryan Sterling climbed out. He was a stockier, harder version of David, with the same dark hair but none of his late brother's warmth. His eyes immediately went to Connor, taking in the work clothes and tool belt with obvious suspicion. "Maya." Ryan nodded curtly. "Heard you had some help around here now." "Ryan, what brings you by?" "Can't a man check on his brother's widow?" Ryan's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Though I see you're managing to keep yourself occupied." The implication in his tone made Maya's cheeks burn with anger, but before she could respond, Connor stepped forward. "Connor Hayes," he said, extending his hand. "I'm helping Maya with the ranch work." Ryan looked at Connor's hand for a long moment before shaking it briefly. "Funny, I don't remember Maya mentioning she was hiring help when I offered to take some of the burden off her hands." "You offered to buy the ranch for half its value," Maya said sharply. "That's not helping, Ryan, that's taking advantage." "I offered to solve your problems," Ryan shot back. "This place is too much for you, Maya. It was too much for David, and he grew up here. What makes you think you can handle it with some hired hand who'll probably be gone by summer?" Connor's posture changed slightly, and Maya could feel the tension radiating from him, but his voice remained calm. "I'm not going anywhere." "Sure you're not," Ryan snorted. "Let me guess. Room, board, and whatever cash Maya can scrape together? Not exactly a long-term career plan." "Ryan, that's enough," Maya said, but her brother-in-law was just getting started. "You know what I think?" Ryan continued. "I think you're taking advantage of a grieving woman who doesn't know the first thing about running a ranch. David's barely been gone 6 months, and here you are, playing house with his widow." The words hit like a physical blow, and Maya felt all her old insecurities come rushing back. Was that what people were thinking? That she was dishonoring David's memory by accepting Connor's help? "You're out of line," Connor said, his voice now carrying a warning edge. "Am I? Or am I the only one willing to say what everyone in town is already thinking?" "Stop it," Maya whispered, but neither man was listening to her anymore. "What people are thinking," Connor said, "is that Maya is a strong woman who's doing her best in a difficult situation. What they're thinking is that she deserves support, not judgment from family who should be helping instead of tearing her down. Family? Ryan laughed harshly. You think you're family now? You've been here, what, 2 weeks? I've known Maya for 10 years and I'm telling you, this fantasy you're both living isn't going to last. That's enough. Maya finally found her voice. Ryan, I want you to leave. Now. Maya, I'm trying to help you. No, you're trying to hurt me. The same way you've been trying to hurt me since the funeral. I don't know what I ever did to make you hate me so much, but I'm done pretending to be okay with it. Ryan's face flushed red. You want to know what you did? You made my brother forget who he was. David used to be practical, sensible. Then he married you and suddenly he's pouring every penny into this place, working himself to death trying to live up to some fantasy of what you thought ranch life should be. The accusation hit Maya like a sledgehammer. She'd wondered the same thing during the dark hours after David's funeral. Had her city girl dreams of ranch life pushed him to work too hard? Had her inability to contribute more to the operation made him feel like he had to carry the entire burden? That's not true, she said, but her voice lacked conviction. Isn't it? Ryan pressed. David used to talk about maybe selling this place, moving to town, starting a family. But no, you had to have your perfect country life even if it killed him. Maya felt tears starting and she hated that Ryan was seeing her cry. But before she could respond, Lucy came running around the corner of the house. Daddy, Maya, come quick. One of the mama cows is having her baby. The morning after Ryan's visit, Maya woke to the sound of hammering that seemed more urgent than usual. She looked out her window to see Connor already at work, his movements sharp and determined as he repaired the barn door. Even from a distance, she could see the tension in his shoulders. She found him an hour later having worked through what should have been breakfast. His shirt was already soaked with sweat despite the early hour, and he was attacking a loose board like it had personally offended him. Connor, she said softly, you need to eat something. I'm fine, he replied without looking up. Just want to get this finished. It's 7 in the morning. The barn door has been broken for 3 months. It can wait another hour for breakfast. Connor's hammer paused mid-swing. Can it? Because according to your brother-in-law, I'm just some drifter who'll be gone by summer. Maybe I need to prove I'm worth keeping around. Maya felt her heart sink. She'd hoped Connor would brush off Ryan's cruel words, but clearly they'd hit their target. Connor, you don't have anything to prove to Ryan. Or to anyone else. Don't I? Connor finally looked at her, and she could see the doubt in his green eyes. He wasn't entirely wrong, Maya. I am just a hired hand with no permanent ties to this place. If you decide tomorrow that this arrangement isn't working, Lucy and I would be back on the road with nowhere to go. Is that what you think? That I'd just throw you out on a whim? Connor set down his hammer and leaned against the barn wall. I think you're a kind woman who took pity on 2 strangers. I think you've been lonely since your husband died, and having us here fills some of that emptiness. But I also think that eventually, the reality of supporting 2 extra people is going to outweigh the temporary comfort we provide. His words stung because they echoed her own fears. Not about wanting them gone. She couldn't imagine the ranch without them now, but about whether she was being fair to them. What kind of future could she really offer? Where is this coming from, she asked. Yesterday you were talking about partnerships and long-term plans. Yesterday I hadn't been reminded that I'm 32 years old with no savings, no property, and a 6-year-old daughter who deserves better than a father who chases temporary jobs. Before Maya could respond, they were interrupted by the sound of crying from the house. Both adults immediately hurried toward the sound, finding Lucy in the kitchen, tears streaming down her face as she stood over a broken cereal bowl. I'm sorry, she sobbed. I was trying to get breakfast by myself so I wouldn't bother anyone, and I dropped it. I'll clean it up, I promise. Connor was beside his daughter in an instant, pulling her into his arms. Hey, it's okay. Accidents happen. You're not in trouble. But I made a mess, Lucy hiccuped, and Maya probably doesn't want broken dishes in her nice kitchen. Lucy, sweetheart, Maya knelt down beside them. I don't care about the bowl. I care about you. Are you hurt? Lucy shook her head but continued crying. I heard you and Daddy talking outside. Are we going to have to leave? I don't want to leave. I like it here. I like you. Maya's heart broke as she realized Lucy had overheard their conversation. This little girl had already lost her mother and been uprooted from her home. Now she was terrified of losing the only stability she'd found. "Lucy," Maya said gently, "you and your daddy aren't going anywhere. Not unless you want to." "Promise?" Lucy asked, her blue eyes wide with hope and fear. Maya looked at Connor over Lucy's head. His expression was unreadable, but she could see he was waiting for her answer too. This was the moment where she had to decide. Was she going to let Ryan's poisonous words drive away the best thing that had happened to her since David died? "I promise," she said firmly. "This is your home now for as long as you want it to be." Connor's eyes widened. "Maya, you don't have to—" "Yes, I do," she interrupted. "Connor, I need you to listen to me. What Ryan said yesterday was wrong. You're not taking advantage of me. You're not some temporary fix for my loneliness. You and Lucy have brought this ranch back to life in ways I didn't even realize were possible." She stood up, her resolve growing stronger with each word. "Do you know what this place was like before you came? I was going through the motions of living, but I wasn't really alive. I was just existing, marking time until I could figure out how to sell everything and walk away from David's dream. And now?" Connor asked quietly. "Now I remember why David loved this land. I remember why I fell in love with it too. Not because it's romantic or pretty, but because it's real. It's about taking care of things that depend on you. It's about building something that matters." Lucy had stopped crying and was listening intently to every word. Maya knelt down again and took the little girl's hands. "Lucy, I need you to know something. Before you and your daddy came here, I was sad and scared and very, very lonely. You've made me remember how to laugh. You've made me remember what it feels like to have a family. I don't ever want to lose that." "Really?" Lucy whispered. "Really?" "And Connor," Maya stood and faced him directly, "I don't know what the future holds. I can't promise that the ranch will always be profitable or that life won't throw us challenges. But I can promise that whatever comes, we'll face it together. Not as employer and employee, but as partners, as family." Connor was quiet for a long moment, his jaw working as he processed her words. Finally, he asked, "What exactly are you saying, Maya?" Maya took a deep breath. This was the moment she'd been avoiding, the conversation she'd been too scared to have. But seeing the fear in Lucy's eyes and the doubt in Connor's had crystallized something for her. "I'm saying I don't want you to work for me anymore," she said. "I want you to work with me, as an equal partner in this ranch. I want your name on the deed, and I want Lucy to grow up knowing this is her home, not just a place she's temporarily staying." Connor stared at her in shock. "Maya, you can't. Just give away half your ranch to someone you've known for 3 weeks. I'm not giving it away, I'm investing in the future. David left me this ranch, but he also left me alone with it. I think he would want me to share it with people who love it the way he did." "But what if it doesn't work out between us?" Connor asked. "What if we can't make it as business partners?" Maya felt her cheeks warm as she realized the double meaning in his words. Were they talking about business partnership or something more personal? "Then we'll figure it out like adults," she said. "But Connor, I think we both know this is about more than just business." Connor looked at her for a long moment, then at Lucy, who was watching them both with hopeful eyes. "Lucy, why don't you go wash your face and brush your teeth while Maya and I finish talking?" Lucy nodded and ran off, clearly sensing that the adults needed privacy for whatever came next. When they were alone, Connor stepped closer to Maya. "You're right. This is about more than business. But Maya, I need you to be sure about what you're saying, because if we do this, if we become real partners in every sense, there's no going back." "I don't want to go back," Maya said, surprised by the certainty in her own voice. "Connor, I know this is crazy. I know we haven't known each other long, but I also know that I haven't felt this alive since before David got sick. I haven't felt this hopeful about the future since maybe ever." Connor reached out and touched her face gently. "I feel the same way. But Maya, I need you to understand what you'd be taking on. It's not just me. It's Lucy, too. She's been through so much loss already. If you're not completely sure about this, if there's any chance you might change your mind. I won't change my mind about Lucy, Maya said firmly. That little girl has wrapped herself around my heart so tightly. I can't imagine life without her giggling in the kitchen and asking me a million questions about everything. And what about me? Connor asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Maya's heart raced as she looked into his eyes. I'm terrified of you, she admitted. I'm terrified of caring about someone again, of building a life with someone again, of risking my heart again. But I'm more terrified of letting fear keep me from something that could be wonderful. Connor's hands cupped her face gently. I'm scared too. I never thought I'd want to settle down again, to trust someone else with Lucy's future. But Maya, when I look at you, when I see how you care for the animals and how gentle you are with my daughter, I can't imagine being anywhere else. They were moving closer together, the space between them charged with possibility and hope and the promise of something neither of them had dared to dream of again. Maya, Connor whispered, I think I'm falling in love with you. I think I'm falling in love with you too, she whispered back. And then they were kissing, soft and tentative at first, then with growing certainty. It was a kiss that tasted like new beginnings and second chances, like morning coffee and the promise of shared tomorrows. When they broke apart, both were breathing hard. So what do we do now? Connor asked. Now we figure out how to make this work, Maya said. We talked to a lawyer about making you a legal partner. We enroll Lucy in school. We plan for the future together. Just like that? Maya smiled. Just like that. Connor, I spent 8 years married to a man who planned every detail of our life together. We had 5-year plans and 10-year goals and backup plans for our backup plans, and you know what? Life happened anyway. David got sick anyway. Things fell apart anyway. 6 months later, Maya stood at the kitchen window watching Connor teach Lucy how to rope a fence post in the front yard. The little girl's face was scrunched up in concentration as she swung the small rope Connor had made just for her. Missing the target by several feet, but trying again with determination. You're holding it too tight, Connor called out patiently. Let the rope do the work. Maya smiled as she dried the breakfast dishes. These morning lessons had become a routine, along with so many other small traditions that had grown naturally from their life together. Lucy's bedtime stories, Connor's terrible jokes over coffee, family movie nights on the old couch in the living room. The ranch was thriving in ways Maya had never imagined possible. With Connor's help, they'd expanded their herd, improved the grazing systems, and even started selling hay to neighboring ranches. But more importantly, the land felt alive again, full of purpose and laughter and the kind of deep contentment that comes from knowing you're exactly where you belong. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. Maya looked out to see Tom Bradley, their elderly neighbor, standing on the porch with his hat in his hands. Tom had been David's friend and had been one of the few people in town to welcome Connor and Lucy without reservation. Morning, Tom, Maya said, opening the door. Come in, I just made fresh coffee. Thank you, Maya, but I can't stay long. Tom looked unusually serious. I came to tell you something, and I wanted you to hear it from me first. Maya felt a familiar twist of anxiety in her stomach. What's wrong? Ryan Sterling was at the feed store yesterday running his mouth again, but this time he wasn't just complaining about you having help around here. What do you mean? Tom sighed. He was telling anyone who'd listen that David's will might not be valid. Said he found some lawyer who thinks he can challenge it based on David's state of mind before he died. Maya felt the blood drain from her face. His state of mind? Ryan's claiming David wasn't thinking clearly because of his heart condition. Says the medication might have affected his judgment when he made that will, leaving everything to you. The coffee cup in Maya's hands began to shake. She set it down carefully, trying to process what Tom was telling her. Can he do that? Legally, I mean? I don't know, honey. That's why I came to tell you. You need to talk to a lawyer, get ahead of this before Ryan files any papers. Maya sank into a kitchen chair, her mind racing. Everything they'd built, everything they were planning, it could all be taken away by a man who'd never forgiven her for marrying his brother. Maya? Connor appeared in the doorway, having seen Tom's truck. One look at her face and he was immediately alert. What's happened? Tom explained the situation while Connor listened with a deepening frown. Maya watched. Her partner's expression changed from concern to anger, to something that looked dangerously like resignation. I should go, Connor said quietly after Tom left. What? Maya looked at him in shock. Go where? Away from here. Take Lucy and leave before this gets worse. Connor paced to the window, his shoulders tense. Maya, don't you see what's happening? Ryan's not just challenging the will, he's challenging us. Our relationship, our life together. If this goes to court, they'll drag both our names through the mud. So we fight it, Maya said firmly. Connor, we knew this might happen eventually. I won't let Ryan scare us away from our home. Our home? Connor turned to face her. Maya, if Ryan wins, this won't be our home anymore, it'll be his. And where does that leave Lucy and me, back on the road with nothing? He won't win, Maya insisted. David's will was clear. He wanted me to have this ranch. But what if he does win? What if some judge decides that David wasn't competent when he signed that will? Maya, I can't put Lucy through losing another home. I can't watch her get attached to a life that might be taken away. Maya felt panic rising in her chest. Connor, please. We can't give up without fighting. This ranch, this life we've built, it's worth fighting for. Is it? Connor asked, his voice heavy with doubt. Maybe Ryan's right. Maybe I am just a drifter who took advantage of a grieving widow. Maybe the best thing I can do for everyone is disappear. Don't you dare, Maya said, standing up so quickly her chair scraped against the floor. Don't you dare let Ryan Sterling make you doubt what we have. What do we have, Maya? Really? Connor's green eyes were full of pain. We have a few months of playing house, pretending we're a real family, but when it comes down to it, I have no legal claim to anything here. No protection for Lucy if things go wrong. Then marry me. The words were out of Maya's mouth before she'd consciously thought them. But as soon as she said them, she knew they were right. Connor stared at her in shock. What? Marry me, Maya repeated, her voice growing stronger with each word. Not because of Ryan or the will or legal protection. Marry me because I love you. Because I love Lucy, because we're already a family in every way that matters. Maya, you can't propose to me just to solve a legal problem. I'm not, she interrupted. I'm proposing because I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Because I want to adopt Lucy officially and be her mother-in-law as well as in my heart. Because I want to face whatever challenges come our way as husband and wife, not just as partners who might run away when things get tough. Connor was quiet for a long moment, his jaw working as he processed her words. This isn't how I imagined it happening, he said finally. How did you imagine it? I imagined waiting until I had something to offer you. A ring, savings, some kind of security. I imagined doing it properly, romantically. Maya stepped closer to him, placing her hands on his chest. Connor Hayes, I don't need a ring or savings or romance. I need you. I need your terrible jokes and your gentle hands and your patient way with scared animals. I need Lucy's laughter and her endless questions and her absolute faith that everything will work out fine. Maya, I need a husband who will work beside me but won't work himself to death. I need a partner who sees problems and solves them instead of running away. I need a man who loves me enough to stay and fight for what we've built. Connor cupped her face in his calloused hands. You're sure, even with all this uncertainty, all the legal mess we're walking into? Especially with all that, Maya said firmly. Connor, love isn't about waiting for perfect circumstances. It's about choosing to build a life together no matter what obstacles come up. And Lucy, we'd need to think about what's best for her. Lucy needs stability, security, and parents who love her completely. She can have all of that with us, whether we're facing legal challenges or not. Connor pulled Maya closer, resting his forehead against hers. I love you, he said quietly. I love you so much it scares me sometimes. I love you too. So is that a yes? Before Connor could answer, they heard the front door slam and Lucy's voice calling out, "Daddy, Maya, I finally roped the fence post. Come see." They looked at each other and started laughing. Here they were, in the middle of a life-changing conversation, and their daughter needed them to witness her triumph. "We should go see," Maya said. "In a minute," Connor replied. "I have something to say first." He took her hands in his. "Maya, Sterling, you are the strongest, most generous, most beautiful woman I've ever known. Yes, I'll marry you. Yes, I'll stay and fight for our life together. Yes to everything." This time when they kissed, it tasted like promises and forever. 3 months later, on a crisp October morning, Maya walked down the aisle of the small country church wearing David's mother's wedding dress, which had been carefully altered to fit her. The church was packed with friends and neighbors, including Tom Bradley and even some of the ranch hands from neighboring properties. Connor waited at the altar in his best suit, Lucy beside him in a yellow dress with a crown of wildflowers. In her hair, she was officially the flower girl, though she'd informed everyone that she was also the love supervisor for the ceremony. Pastor Williams smiled as Maya reached the altar. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to celebrate the marriage of Connor and Maya and to witness the joining of 3 hearts into one family." The ceremony was simple but perfect. They exchanged rings that Connor had saved for months to buy, made promises to love and support each other through whatever challenges life might bring, and officially became a family in the eyes of God and the law. When Pastor Williams announced, "You may kiss the bride," Lucy cheered so loudly that half the congregation started laughing. The reception was held at the ranch, with tables set up in the barn and dancing on the wooden floor Connor had spent weeks refinishing. Maya had worried that people might whisper or judge, but instead, she found herself surrounded by genuine love and support from the community that had become her home. Even the legal challenge had worked out better than they'd hoped. When Maya's lawyer had examined David's will and medical records, he'd found several documents proving that David had been of sound mind and had actually consulted with his doctor before making his final will. Ryan's case had been thrown out before it even reached court, and he'd finally stopped his campaign against Maya and Connor. As Maya danced with her new husband, while Lucy spun around them in her yellow dress, she thought about how different her life looked now.